Hey Scott, just wanted to make a quick video on the Stryd power meter metrics and what you can view once you know them. So this is a chart off of one of my athletes that has been using the Stryd for about a year now. And you can see that there is a power duration curve profile that is set up based off of your mean max power that you put out, just like you have for cycling. So it's very similar to that. There is a little bit different data points that you can get, and the first one is your horizontal power. All right, you can see here that it is this light green line down below, and you can see actually what's happening if we go back on it and you move to different spots throughout the power duration curve. So we're running about an hour right now. It's not a whole lot beyond that point right now. But if they were running longer, they would. Our primary focus right now has just been increasing her power over time. You can see down here her horizontal power numbers, her percentage points. That's how much force she's generating through her horizontal power directly with her hips. So your glute muscles, your power muscles, how much you're generating directly correlates to how fast you are. So if we back out of here, we can scroll down here, and the point that you were talking about for the Garmin, the one that the Stryd has is called leg spring stiffness. You can see that this chart has gone up, it's gone down. Her horizontal power, it is actually improving, believe it or not, from this chart right here. But what you can notice right here, she started off at about a 49.8, and that dipped down over this period of time to a 46.5. So we have noticed that both her leg spring stiffness and her horizontal power were decreasing. So what we did is we added a couple plyometrics. We added some hip openers to her warm-up, some glute activation lifts to help her generate that power. And over the next couple of weeks, you see that there's an increase. Over the last couple of weeks, she's had to go back to work a little bit, so this has gone down a little bit, but she's starting to get back into it here, and you can see that the first thing that's going to come back is that horizontal power here, and then the leg spring stiffness will come next. You can also see that even from, if we go to our insights really quick, you can see that everything is trending down right here, but if we go back to this chart previously, you can see that her average pace is trending up. Okay, so we can see that the physiological gains that we've made from adjusting her schedule have improved and played a positive role big time. We can go over to, just scroll up here for you. This is her power duration curve for the run. It's going to look a little bit different than on the bike. Just keep that in mind. But you can see here that you can identify some holes with her mean max power and where she should be. For instance, at 11 seconds here, there's another one right at 8 minutes and 36 seconds. And then her deflection point right here, her time to exhaustion right around 33 minutes right here. And once we know this time to exhaustion, we can really turn up the training big time. Just like for the bike, when you're in your base phase, you're doing a lot of sweet spot training. Same thing for the run now. So we can take what we know from the bike and translate it. It's a little more complicated than what I'm making it sound like, but we could translate it to do some sweet spot work on the run as well now to get some of those similar physiological gains that you would on the bike. Now we can get it from the run as well. What you can also do is you can track her FTP development right here. This orange line is her FTP over time, and you can see it's steadily going up, up, up. You can see right around the time we made those changes for her program, increase, and then increased again later on. She's due for another increase here soon, but the heat is kind of hampering that. There's a couple other metrics here that are really interesting. This one, FTP to your VO2 max. You can see the purple line right there, MFTP percentage to VO2 max. This is, again, another important chart that we will utilize when we have the Run Power Garmin or Stryd, either one. I like the Stryd. But you can see here that because this athlete has about an 84 percentage point on her MFTP to VO2 max, she has been green lit to get out of that extensive phase, that building, and focus on some more of that anaerobic push building, some more of that speed work to help her develop and raise that FTP ceiling. So what we're doing now is, instead of just tailoring a program as a linear progression, we can start to get into the nitty-gritty on things and get really specific for you. For instance, if we scroll down here, you can see the areas that I just mentioned above, but these are more specific for her. She's got an 11-second hole, a 9-minute hole, and a 15-minute hole. So if we were to tighten up her power duration curve, we would focus on those areas right here to fill in those gaps and get her a better, more accurate power duration curve. So that is a basic one here. You can also see like her performance. You can see her mean max power trend by weeks as they go. I won't bore you with that. You can see their training this week, last week, this week's ramp rate. Definitely not a heavy training week. She is recovering this week. You can see all kinds of good stuff here. You can see the amount of time they've spent in these zones, the eye level zones. Very, very important things right here. You can see just right off the bat, the last 90 days she spent 40% and 30% in the endurance or easy aerobic phase. So not a whole lot of things are really high in power right now. It's more extensive, more building, and then we're going to get into the anaerobic, the intensive phase next for her. And you can see the impact scores here. If we go into a workout, let's go into a run. This is today's. I'm not sure how this one's going to look here. You can see her intervals, all kinds of cool stuff. You can see power cadence, the ones that I really like to look at here. Her heat map where she did some of these intervals right here. You can see that if we just hover over the zones right here, definitely not super consistent, but you can see that she did get faster as it progressed, which is a great sign that she is able to tolerate that. She just needs to hit her zones a little early on. The impact score right here, you can see that touching some more of that anaerobic right here with these red dots here, you can see that over the course here, her DFRC, essentially how much she fatigues, right? That did not decrease at all, essentially right here. So that tells me that she is ready for a more heavy-duty interval right here, depending on the heat, of course. But if she's ready to rock and roll and the temperatures are where they are, then the power efforts that she was putting out here, this 245, 255 area, that's not intense enough for her to have an appropriate training response. So based off of that, I can go in and change her intervals to be more accurate and targeted specifically for her. So there's a ton of stuff that you can see here. You can see if we go over here, and this is the power spikes, so you can see if there's any bad data in here. Let's get out of workouts. There's one more thing that I wanted to show you. Her metrics, she hasn't been really good about that, but you can see all kinds of really, really cool stuff here based off of this. Let's see if what I'm looking for is in the different tab here. So this is the multi-sport one, not specifically designed for the run, but we'll bounce around here and we'll see what we see. So right here, if I compare the last 30 and 90 days, and we look at our aerobic and anaerobic contribution to power, ideally, let me zoom out here. I'm going to have to zoom in, sorry about that. Right here, I should put the time to exhaustion on this one, but you can see that over this training block, her aerobic percentage points actually decreased right at the point where her anaerobic and aerobic systems meet right there. That's the max aerobic right there. That's the start of when the anaerobic system takes over. Her FTP also decreased a little bit, but that is to be expected a little bit since we were focusing more on endurance and just building that base a little bit, extending her miles right there. And you can see the power duration curve has actually increased right at this deflection point, this super critical area. that we'll be focusing on pushing further and further and further out. Again, it's only 35 seconds right now, but over time, this will continue to push out, push out, push out, further and further and further. So that is just a quick overview of all the data points you could see with the Stryd power meter. Let me know if you have any questions or if I can help in any other way with your decision.